Welcome. I'm Connie Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Alliance of Iowa, and I'm glad that you are here for the people's condition of the state, where everyday Iowans are responding to Governor Reynolds' remarks today, but we are focusing on our Iowa. Iowans are challenging the extreme agenda being planned by Governor Reynolds and Republicans in the legislature. Speakers today will share their stories and the impact of public policy from the last session that is impacting our families and our communities. And speakers will call upon Iowans to stand together and fight back against further attacks on everyday Iowans during the upcoming legislative session. This is our Iowa. Our Iowa for public employees and labor union members who deserve to have their bargaining rights restored and their retirements protected. Our Iowa for public schools that deserve a real raise. Our Iowa for low-income women who want to choose the excellent health care provided at Planned Parenthood and who deserve the right to make their own health care decisions. Our Iowa for workers who deserve a raise of a minimum wage that is higher than what we currently have. Our Iowa for children and families who deserve to be safe against the proliferation of guns in our communities. This is our Iowa, and we are using our voices. I want to thank the hosting organizations of the people's condition of the state, which includes Ask Me Council 61, Interfaith Alliance of Iowa Action Fund, Iowa Federation of Labor AFL-CIO, Iowa State Education Association, Planned Parenthood of the Heartland, Planned Parenthood Voters of Iowa, and Progress Iowa. Today, I am pleased to have 4 women who are with us to speak every day Iowans to talk about their Iowa. We have Jean Swenson, who is a retired National Board Certified Educator and former school board member. We have Della Moll, who is a home care worker. We have Chelsea Vargas, who is with Planned Parenthood Voters of Iowa supporter, and Reverend Debbie Griffin, who is the pastor at Downtown Disciples in Des Moines. And so we're going to start with Jean.
Thank you. As Connie said, I am Jean Swenson. I am a retired public school educator. I taught elementary, middle school music in rural Iowa for 33 years, and I was a nationally board certified teacher. Upon my retirement in 2009, I was elected to the school board in the community where I had previously taught. In 2011, we moved to the Des Moines metro area where I substitute teach and volunteer in a suburban district. I believe my varied experiences in rural and urban public education in Iowa on all sides of the table give me a unique perspective on what's really happening in Iowa's public schools. I too was educated in rural Iowa like Governor Reynolds. I too received a wonderful education in public school. When I was a student, all Iowans were proud of their public schools, and educating students was a priority. Legislators reached across the table, or reached across the aisle to ensure that all Iowa kids were able to reach their full potential. Recently, we've begun to balance the budget on the backs of our students. Governor Reynolds prides herself on the wonderful STEM work that's being done in Iowa's K-12 schools, but she fails to understand that cutting edge cannot happen when inadequate funding does happen. She is proud of proposing a 1.5% increase in SSA and says that it will benefit Iowa's schools, when in fact it is the 5th lowest increase in school funding in over 4 decades. She likes to talk about the millions of dollars that have gone into public education, but I have stories to tell you about the underfunding of schools in Iowa that has happened and has been happening for the last 7 years. I continue to be in close communication with my former teaching colleagues in rural Iowa. They tell me that class sizes continue to increase as teachers have been reduced. Many rural districts are using early retirement incentives as a way to reduce their teaching staff. Education is no different than any other institution. It operates most effectively when it is staffed by veterans and those new to the profession. Early retirement assures that the veteran, expensive teachers are replaced by inexperienced teachers who are paid less. Rural districts have made all the staff cuts they possibly can. If their budgets are further eroded, they will have no choice but to cut programs. Rural districts are also having difficulty hiring teachers in all fields. And they're discovering that the Department of Education is short-staffed and can't credential teachers in a timely fashion. They fear that the cost of college education soaring, coupled with the dismantling of Chapter 20 during the 2017 legislative session, there may be even fewer teachers available to them. Rural districts also have to spend a disproportionate amount of money on transportation. It does appear that a child's zip code indeed affects his or her quality of education. Educators in growing urban areas face challenges too. Funding is not keeping up with their growing populations and their class sizes are soaring. There are fewer educational support professionals, so teachers are finding themselves performing all kinds of tasks that were once assigned to support professionals while still doing all of their teaching duties. The students are the ones who suffer when their teachers are pulled from the classroom to do non-teaching tasks. Area education agencies are in dire need of funding. AEAs, too, are incredibly short-staffed. In some AEAs, school psychologists serve as special education consultants. Really? In this time of increased mental health needs, can we afford to have our psychologists doing double duty? In our AEAs, a teacher for mobility and orientation is also the teacher for visually impaired. We are doing Iowa's kids a disservice by not serving them appropriately. Inadequate funding means we're spreading ourselves too thin. The teachers from rural and urban Iowa shared their concern for all of the factors that are affecting their classrooms. It seems many insurance companies are no longer covering the medications their students need, so the kids are simply going without, affecting their performance and behavior in the classroom. Teachers are noticing more hungry kids, and they are spending their own money on food for kids who come to school hungry. Far too many teachers, both rural and urban, have resorted to GoFundMe pages, grant writing, and cutting soup labels to have the necessary tools for kids to learn. Funding for education used to be the responsibility of the state. When did educating kids become the sole responsibility of Iowa's teachers? When did it become okay to be at the back of the pack rather than the front? 2018 is not the year to further erode public education, be it PK-12, AEA, community college, or Regents institutions. 2018 is the year to make Iowa public education a priority once again. We Iowans were once so proud of our education system that we put foundation in education on the back of our state quarter. It's time for both sides of the aisle to roll up their sleeves and work to find a sustainable funding stream for Iowa's public schools and to support our public educators. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Della Mall. I live in Marion, Iowa. I'm a foster mom, and I'm also a healthcare worker. And I have personally experienced the devastation of the privatization of the Medicaid system, as I'm sure many of you also have, under the Governor Reynolds. The governor and the state have a duty to the children in Iowa foster care system, a duty to treat these children as their own and to provide for them and to protect them. I simply cannot understand why the state has taken away funding from these kids when it comes to their health care, their clothing, their food, their transportation, and the essential services that they desperately need. I have seen firsthand what it means to have their services cut. I have seen firsthand that their Medicaid needs have not been met, have been denied. And can our state consistently turn their backs on these children? Governor Reynolds is failing our most valuable kids. I also would like to speak to the providers of Medicaid recipients today. As a direct care worker, I have had claims denied for services and for clients that cannot perform these duties themselves. I have seen lost timesheets, late payments, the lack of respect from DHS. I have tried repeatedly to navigate the privatization of Medicaid system, and it is clear that the system is definitely failing. Like we said, there was going to be problems. The result of those problems is just manifesting itself day after day. And over the last 2 years, I have traveled to every DHS hearing. I have been able to attend to try to have our voices heard. Every time I attend these town hall meetings, Iowans crowd into the room, and I'm sure you all have seen this too. They repeat the same things over and over again, how the services has been cut from places that it cannot be touched. And for the last 25 months, the Medicare privatization has just fell completely down. And I feel that the state and the governor have turned their backs on us. It's clear that the for-profit corporations are running this system more important than everyday Iowans who are suffering. And so what is it going to take? What is it absolutely going to take for us to say, that's it, this is enough? We can't do no more. People can't do no more. We have got to have the state of Iowa stepping up. Thank you.
Hello, folks. My name is Chelsea Vargas. I'm a resident here in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm coming here on my lunch break from work to make sure our legislators hear my story. I've been a born and raised Catholic. My faith is a big part of my character. I started using birth control at 18 while in college. I wanted to make sure I could pursue my education, pursue my desires to work, and my desires to travel, all of which would be much more difficult with an unexpected child. I was making a responsible choice. This choice collided with my Catholic faith. However, I knew my autonomy and my personal agency outweighed the related religious doctrine. Until recently, I was using the NuvaRing as my form of birth control, and I loved it. It's often really hard to find a birth control which really works for you. It was also covered financially under the Iowa Family Planning Waiver, making it accessible to me. However, the Iowa Family Planning Waiver Program has since been defunded due to politicians here in Iowa targeting Planned Parenthood and patients like myself, 20-something-year-olds studying, working, exploring the world, and making responsible reproductive choices. Why my local politicians who should be representing me are continuously voting against my own health choices is baffling. They often claim to be voting on behalf of their religious beliefs, beliefs which I too practice. However, I don't place my beliefs above others or implement my beliefs onto others. As a result of the defunding, I had to change from the birth control I loved. I had limited time to find an appointment and only had one birth control option that was available, the implant. I found myself in an unfair and unjust position, which also caused me a lot of anxiety. Only my doctor and I know what is best for my body in regards to my health, not my faith, and clearly not my local government. I chose and I choose birth control to prevent an unwanted pregnancy. However, birth control has many uses. For example, my sister at age 10, long before she was sexually active, was prescribed birth control due to her anemia. The services we look for, ones folks like myself visit Planned Parenthood for, can treat various symptoms, none of which are the business of my local politicians. If politicians continuously attempt to strip away our accesses to birth control, a woman's place in the world will absolutely change. Birth control puts women like myself in a better economical space. We should have access to make our own choices. Local politicians making our health choices for us is frankly irresponsible, gross, and just bizarre. My story is one of millions, and it is one being worth shared as we begin the 2018 legislative session. You must do the right thing to protect Iowans like myself. Again, my name is Chelsea Vargas. Came here today on my lunch break to make sure that Iowa legislators hear my story, which is the same story of women all across this state. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Griffin, and I'm the pastor of Downtown Disciples, a progressive faith community in downtown Des Moines. And I was going to thank Connie for giving me opportunity to speak today, but I don't want to thank her for putting me after Chelsea. Thank you so very much for sharing your lunch break and your heart with us. As a person of faith and a progressive Christian pastor, I have a moral imperative to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly, but not necessarily quietly, when it comes to civil rights, voting rights, equal rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, immigrant and refugee rights, collective bargaining rights. As a person of faith who just celebrated the season of the birth of a poor Jewish child who the world had no room for him or his family or his kind, I am concerned about making room for my neighbor's rights, making room for people to be dignified with the freedom to use a bathroom, to not be denied access or dignity of that choice. I am concerned about making room for people to organize, for people to earn a living wage. I want to make room for equality, for people who share my faith and people who do not. I heard our governor today speak about Iowa as a place where it does not matter if you are rich or poor or male or female. And I would like to say on this, I disagree. It does matter. It matters because some are denied equality and opportunity and freedom because of their gender, because of their gender identity, because of their wage, because of their inability to rise above poverty. I heard our governor share compelling stories about people who lived their dreams, people who worked hard and rose above in order to succeed. And while those are compelling stories, I know stories too. Stories of people who work hard day and night, who work more than one job. And it does matter that they are not able to reach for those dreams that our governor was able to reach for. Because when you are working 2 and 3 jobs, you do not have the access or the ability or the time or the luxury or the privilege of working your way to the top. I am concerned about religious exemptions being used to deny people access to equality, access to make decisions for their own bodies, for their own health care, for their own faith. I'm concerned about religious freedom being confused with justification for discrimination. And while I was pleased to hear our governor speak about sexual harassment, I would like to encourage her and the legislature to not only stand for women against harassment, but also to stand for women and their wisdom and their ability and their right to make decisions about their own health care. And not only women, people of all genders and gender identities. As a person of faith, I acknowledge that religion can sometimes be misused, even abused. And that is why I'm here today. It is why I plan to be here this entire legislative session, doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly, making room for all people in Iowa.
I don't think she had to worry about following Chelsea. I want to thank each of our speakers today and for your wise words and for your commitment for our Iowa. This is our Iowa, and we are using our voices. Thank you to each of you for being here. For the press, we're not taking questions from the podium, but you are welcome to come and speak with any of the speakers up front. And there also are representatives of the organizations, the hosting organizations that are a part of it. This is our Iowa. Be here. We need you. Thank you to the legislators that are in the crowd. Let's give them a hand as well. It's going to be a tough session, and we need each of you to use your voices so that we can retain the Iowa that we know. Thank you so much.